The rise of Asia, shifting the world's economic center of gravity, unlocking new opportunities for growth in vibrant economies across Asia Pacific to foster sustainable growth of the key sectors where we operate, with over 20,000 employees, building the bedrock of Sime Darby Berhard's success.
Before we proceed with our presentation, let me briefly introduce to you guys the background of the company that me and my member picked, which is the Sime Darby. Sime Darby Berhad is one of the largest company in Malaysia and also one of the largest in the Southeast Asia. But in its orbit itself, it has 270 operating in 23 countries, with the most extensive foreign operatings, and it's also broadly diverse activities, which is include the wide range of the industry, with the main core of the business, which is plantations, include the oil palm. And the company's original business, which is manufacturing tires, rubber, motor vehicles distributions. It also have a property developments, power generations, and etc. The company has founded in 1910, and the business divisions seek to create a positive benefits to the economic, environment, and society, which were in the present, which is now lah. And it is one of the largest companies in Bursa Malaysia, and it have been a market capitalizations in 31st January 2012. That's all from me. Move to the next presenter.
First, let's take a look into the Sime Darby's perceptions of ERM. Sime Darby's ERM framework is integrated where appropriate, embedded into the day-to-day business activity and management decision making. The framework is aimed to establish a robust risk management process to ensure that all the business risks are prudently identified, analyzed, and effectively managed. Okay, the first ERM of Sime Darby is macroeconomic risk. Sime Darby is susceptible to global macroeconomic and geopolitical factors, especially in Australia and China, because the significant portion of the business are located in there. So since early 2020, Sime Darby has exposed to the supply chains and market risks in some of the key markets where Sime Darby operates due to COVID-19. The key mitigation measure of Sime Darby is they continuously monitor key geopolitical and macroeconomic development that may expose the Sime Darby's business to any systemic risk. The specific hedging mechanisms such as forward contract also undertook to mitigate forex exposure when necessary. Second ERM of Sime Darby is the competitor risk, where the intense price competition and innovative product offering in the industry. For trading businesses, maintaining market leadership is becoming more intense and challenging as customers become more cautious spending in the middle of the market uncertainties. Most of the market in the region of group experiencing market shrinkage on the back of weakened customer sentiment. Meanwhile, for Sime Darby's logistics, the competition remains intense amidst price competition from nearby ports and the availability of alternative modes of transportation. For the key mitigation measure taken by the Sime Darby is ensuring the diversification strategies are in place to improve the concentration on individual brand or product. Darby also monitor the competitor strategies closely to have a deep understanding on industry and market trends and continue to work with key principles to enhance the pricing competitiveness. Okay, we move on to the next ERM of Darby, which is the development and performance risk, where the risk is the insufficient talents with required skill, knowledge, and expertise to execute the Darby strategy. The need of people with the required skill, knowledge, and expertise is imperative as Darby continues to expand its business across the new market and geographies. The key mitigation measure of Darby in the risk is developing the comprehensive plan to recruit a vital strategic position which the group currently lacks. And the succession planning is included as part of the KPI for key position and continuous training and development programs to enhance the employee skill and knowledge. Okay, the fourth ERM or Darby is the financial risk, where the risk is when the Darby are not generate adequate and sufficient cash flow to meet funding for capital expenditure and working capital. For example, at division and business unit level, the business is temporarily under suspension due to the lockdown and restriction that caused by the pandemic. The suspension can lead to temporary cash flow and liquidity issue in the medium to longer term. The key mitigation of Darby in financial risk is the establishment of the group policies and authorities framework which guide the investment and financing activities. Darby also has access to diverse range of funding sources and ensure that the maintenance of sufficient credit facilities as well as enforce stringent working capital measures. The fifth ERM of the Darby is the health and safety risk, where the risk that will compromise the health and safety of stakeholders. For example, the occurrence of operational safety incidents and injuries arising from the business operation, and the COVID-19 pandemic led to the risk of infection amongst the employees, especially the frontliner and those who have difficulty maintaining social distance during work. The mitigation measures taken by Darby is the established Group Safety and Sustainability Department to develop, implement and monitor the effectiveness of the company's safety and sustainability strategy. Darby also enacted safety guidelines in compliance with government regulation, including travel restriction, quarantine, and hygiene procedures to minimize the risk of infection. And last but not least, is the cyber security risk, where the risk of IT security breach, for example, by intrusion, by distributed denial of service, malware, and ransomware which resulting in significant data breach or loss of key business system. The risk is heightened with the increased reliance on the internet and information technology, as well as increased the instance of remote and offsite network access during the pandemic. The key mitigation taken by the Darby is the installation of the IT security tools such as firewall and antivirus software. Darby also installed a comprehensive intrusion detection and notification system, and lastly, they engage an internal IT vendor to monitor IT security risk exposure very closely and continuously training on cybersecurity awareness. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Risk assessment is the process to consider the possible risks that the company might encounter during the process of achievement their objective. The purpose of risk assessment is to identify the significant risks that could impact selected features. Performing an effective risk assessment comes down to two elements, which are risk recognition and risk evaluation. Risk recognition, also known as identification of risk. Referring to Darby annual report, we found that risk recognition of Darby are microeconomic risk, competitor risk, technology disrupting, acquisition, divestment and projects, cash flow and funding, cybersecurity and regulatory environment. While risk evaluation is to examine the result of risk recognition and compare them to establish risk criteria in order to determine where additional control may be required and what those controls might be. In terms of risk assessment activity, Darby preferred annual strategy planning, quarterly risk profile submission and reporting, proposal and investment risk assessment, and also tender risk assessment. Okay, next we move to risk metric. Risk metric is a tool used by the company to show the risk, likelihood, and impact of the company. This is a simple mechanism to increase visibility of risk and assist management decision making. There are three main reasons why the company uses risk metric, which are to measure the risk and scope of risk, to determine if company have the appropriate resources to minimize the risk, and also to prioritize the list of the risk in a legible and easy to read metric. Lastly, after all the risk has been evaluated, Darby identified the most relevant risk response. Risk response is a process of developing options and determining action to enhance opportunity and reduce threat to the objective. This is also called as risk mitigation strategy. There have four strategies that can be considered. That are avoid risk. When the company use this option, they are closing off any possibility that the risk will pose a threat to the company. The company will choose this strategy if the risk will impact the employee safety and violate the law. Next is reduce risk. Reduce risk is a reasonable strategy when the risk is higher than the appetite. And the third one is transfer risk. The company may transfer the risk to the third party, such as purchasing insurance. Darby can purchase insurance from insurance company to transfer their risk. And lastly, accept the risk. This strategy being used by the company is when the probability of the risk is too low.
Moving on to the risk governance model of Sime Darby Berhad. Sime Darby Berhad had developed a comprehensive risk governance model as a guidance for early identification and handling of risk involving multiple stakeholders. The model is aimed at establishing a strong foundation of risk management process across the group and to ensure that all business risks are prudently identified, analyzed, and effectively managed. Moreover, model governance should ensure the alignment of the whole model lifecycle with three lines of defense. In Sime Darby Berhad, the first line of defense represents the responsibility of the operational management and senior leadership in the ongoing activities of the group. In this line of defense, they are responsible for owning and managing risk, identify, assess, mitigate risk, and conduct evaluations of internal control. The second line of defense represents how Sime Darby oversees risk, which is through the group compliance and integrity and also group risk management. These activities in the second line of defense includes ensuring the effectiveness in implementing effective risk management practices by the persons from first line of defense, assisting risk owners with risk evaluation by considering the group risk appetite, and providing updates on the status of risk and resiliency to executive management and the board of audit committee of Sime Darby Berhad. The third line of defense is the last line of defense of this model, which provides independent assurance. Internal audit forms the third line of defense and provides assurance on the effectiveness of the governance, risk management, and also internal controls. Furthermore, this line of defense assesses the effectiveness of the first and second lines of defense in achieving risk management objectives and the effectiveness of the risk management and internal control framework.
International practices of risk management is based on ISO 31000. ISO 31000 is a framework with 5 components which are mandate, plan implementation, checks, and improvement. It is a process of communication and consultation, context, risk assessment, treatment, and monitoring. While IEC 31010 is the complementary to ISO 31000, which provides guidelines on managing risks faced by organizations. It provides a common approach managing any type of risk and is not industry or sector specific. The first suggestion for improvement of risk management practices by comparing with international practices is by making sure the involvement of both internal and external stakeholders. In order to effectively manage risk, Sime Darby should involve the stakeholders every step of the way, beginning with the initial risk assessment. Stakeholders can include people such as managers, clients, employees, shareholders, unions, and etc. Many of these individuals may be key personnel or the key to the risk management processes. Each of these individuals represent different roles and responsibilities within the organization, thus giving the corporation a holistic representation of all of the aspects of the business and each risk that comes along with it. Encourage stakeholders to help improve the continuous risk process by getting them involved and feel included in the journey of the risk management practices. Communicating risk throughout the organization is another important aspect of risk management. Key risks or risks that will have high organizational impact are identified and monitored by all departments. Any new risks are identified, assessed, and mitigated properly. The corporation must create awareness through communication not only with the internal organization but also external stakeholders. Especially during this pandemic, every stakeholders need to play their role efficiently to ensure the continuity of the operation. Thus, a comprehensive and holistic multi-hazard risk assessment must be carried out with the involvement of stakeholders at regional level. This multi-stakeholder involvement in multi-hazard risk management will improve disaster preparedness, mitigation measures, strengthen risk communication, and capacity to deal with multiple hazards at regional level. Another suggestion for improvement of risk management practices by comparing with international practices is ensuring consistency and continuity. According to Sime Darby's 2020 annual report, Group Risk Management's key focus area for fiscal year 2020, as highlighted in the annual report 2019, was successfully implemented. The next crucial step is monitoring. Clear monitoring processes must be established to ensure that any and all risk mitigation efforts are working and effective. This is a crucial aspect of any risk management process. The process of determining what are the risks to the organization and creating steps to mitigate those risks is critical to the organization. It is a continuous and constantly evolving process. If the risk management practices has been implemented, ensuring the continuation of the implementation is the real success. One important step in any successful risk management program in ensuring the continuity and consistency of an excellent risk management practices is by creating a strong risk culture. Risk culture is defined as the values, beliefs, and attitudes about risk by a common group of people. It is the responsibility of management and the board of directors to clearly communicate the company's culture and set the tone for compliance from the top. Management buy-in is critical to ensure that the importance of risk awareness is perceived throughout the entire organization. Group risk management of Sime Darby did include one of the focus areas for fiscal year 2021 is to implement activities to enhance knowledge and understanding of risk management across the business. If this program is successfully implemented, it will result in a strong risk culture within the organization. As for that, thank you.
So it looks like we reached to the conclusion part. So as a conclusion, Sime Darby is a cooperating company that involves many types of risk. With all the suggestions above, such as planning and organizing, it plays an important role to run the business, especially how to overcome the risk from the company itself. Since Sime Darby is one of the international company, it also is a main key to Malaysia with Malaysian economy, as well as the diverse multi-nations which is involved with the key growth sector. The risk management should be practiced from time to time in order to prevent unwanted things to be happen in the future. That's all from our group. Thank you for letting your ear. Thank you and goodbye. Stay safe.